Michael, it was obviously a really poor week for us results-wise, but how do you as a manager now get the players in the right frame of mind, not just to show you, but to show the fans that they don't just care for themselves, but they care for the club and what it means to the local people and everybody that works at Stoke City?
Yeah. Well, look, we've had those discussions about, what the accountability that the players have, that we all have as coaches, managers, and players. The accountability to the club, to the supporters, the significance, and obviously of Stoke City in the area is hugely significant as well. So those are all things that haven't not been discussed. The performance on Tuesday was, as I said after the game, was unacceptable. We didn't deal with a hungry team, a team with great desire, and we didn't match that. And often in football, to get anything out of a game, it's extremely difficult if you don't do that. So it was a disappointing performance, and we got what we deserved, which was nothing. But yeah, it's been difficult enough because I think, as I said, come back post-lockdown, we got a good draw away at Reading. We showed good character and to equalise late in the game. And, I think, as I touched on previously against Middlesbrough, whilst we lost the game, we were a little bit masters of our own downfall on that. So whilst we, as poor as we were Tuesday night, we've reviewed the game. We don't need to dwell on it, and we move forward to the next game, which is obviously Barnsley tomorrow.
It must be quite difficult too, because you can't spend too much time on the training pitch with 2 games a week. So you've obviously reviewed things, but we've got to get rid of the anxiety, haven't we? And go back to basics and be brave and take our chances. Yeah,
we have to. Look, the situation is what it is for the players, and there's no doubt when you're playing in the bottom end of the table, there's a real anxiety around the whole situation. The players who came to this club in the past, either at the start of this season or the previous season when the club went into the Championship, didn't come here with the intention of playing at this end of the table. But the reality is that's where we've been. So they have to deal with that situation. And, we'll play against a team tomorrow who, in many ways, have played with as if they were already relegated, to be honest, and played with a lot of risk. And ultimately, they've got points where possibly they weren't expected to, and they've now given themselves a chance of survival. So they've got to be commended for that, and we have to match the desire and hunger they'll have for the game. And as you rightly say, we have to play without, the restraint that anxiety can have on you, and the players have to be able to deal with the situation.
I mean, you could also say the same about Luton. They were almost dead and buried, and now they've got nothing to lose and they're going for it. But we, as you have said, have always been, since you came, around that bottom 3 or in that bottom 3. It's easy to see that some fans have now given up after Tuesday and thrown in the towel. But we got 18 points to play for, and there's nothing to say we can't get at least 9 of those points if we play well.
Well, yeah, I don't think, there's no need for the fans to give up at this point in time. I think that, as you rightly say, look, we've been essentially, we've never been further than 3 points from being in relegation. We possibly had a little bit of a higher gap, but teams then got positive results a lot around us. But the highest league position we've had is 17th. And when we were in 17th, I believe Charlton were in the relegation zone and they were only 3 points behind us. So sometimes possibly maybe people thought we had done more, maybe thought we were further away from trouble than what we actually were. I, for one, was always aware of the situation. The players were made aware of that situation as soon as they came back in. And the reality is, unfortunately, we've not gathered the points that were on offer in the opening 3 games. But as you rightly say, we have 18 points to play for. And the most important thing in this situation is to focus on the next game and make sure that, we try and get 3 points from the game against Barnsley. And then the league table may look different. And hopefully it'll give us a little bit of momentum then to kick on and get the points that we need to stay up.
You were refreshingly honest after the defeat at Wigan. You said there were no positives to me personally. You told me there were no positives to come out of that game. And you said there were things happening in the changing room that you weren't happy with. Presumably you've had a few clear the air chats with the players since then.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to be honest with players. Sometimes they don't like to hear that, but it's necessary. I feel that our players have been in a very fortunate situation, because we've not been in a scenario where we've been asked to take wage deferrals or wage cuts, and we have to be mindful that with that comes accountability and comes responsibility. And the performance on Tuesday night, as I said after the game, wasn't acceptable. The players knew that. They knew that at half time, and they knew that obviously at the end of the game. In the cold light of day on a Wednesday morning, when you start to review the game and you look at the video, you can then be more analytical inside of the game as opposed to be emotional. But the reality of the whole situation was, again, we invited pressure, which wasn't our game plan, and we couldn't match the desire and hunger in terms of the running power that the opposition had. We also lost two extremely poor goals, which made the game very difficult for us as well. But ultimately, our performance, we didn't deserve anything from the game. So, yeah, we know that as a group, not just the players. Us, we have responsibility as coaches and managers as well. I think in these last two games, the team has been as well prepared as at any point in my reign. But unfortunately, that hasn't translated into, certainly in the Wigan game, the level of performance we'd like to see, and obviously the results. But we have 6 very important games left, and we have to maximise what we have in front of us.
Have you seen a more sprightly spring in the step training then since the game, or are the players still pretty down?
Well, they can't afford to be down. One of the things we can't do is feel sorry for ourselves, and that's not going to get us anywhere. So it's better to clear the air. I do think you have to put in the championship as a whole, regardless of the current situation, you do have to put bad results behind you quite quickly and move on. That's the nature of the league that we're in, and we've done that. But in terms of our preparation, but we have to do that by winning the game tomorrow, and we obviously have to have a greatly improved performance from what we had on Tuesday night.
Did we pick up any injuries on Tuesday?
No, we've no fresh injuries on Tuesday. The only injury, unfortunately, in training was Tom Edwards has picked up a foot injury, and he won't be available.
And Nick Powell's back in contention?
Yeah, Nick's available, free from suspension, so obviously is available and has been an important player for us.
When you looked at the stats, last few from me, when you've looked at the stats of the last couple of matches, we've tended to give away possession a lot more than we have done. We've obviously wasted some chances, but it's the free kicks around the box that have been killing us, isn't it?
Well, yeah, we particularly in terms of the opposition, particularly in the Middlesbrough game, because we emphasised in the Middlesbrough game that would be what they would play for, what they would look for. And Middlesbrough, they probably on the day put, the biggest physical team that they could put on the pitch from the squad that they have, and we struggled to deal with that. So, we were, if anything, our own worst enemies in that game, because we conceded so many needless free kicks. If you look at the goal, for example, the free kick we concede in the wide area, the player's not going anywhere, and then we have to defend the ball in our box and we lose a goal from it. Then we have to chase the game, and that's been the pattern in the 3 games. We've gone behind in each of the 3 games, which meant that we've had to play, and from chasing the game, and there's added anxiety when you're in that situation, as opposed to getting ourselves ahead in the game and playing with a little bit more confidence. Game 1 and game 2, we had a lot of possession, but I didn't see the statistics in detail in terms of possession because on Tuesday night, because for me it was irrelevant really, because we weren't in the game, we didn't compete enough, and our end product in what little opportunities we had in the final third was poor, throughout the game. So we can analyse all of those things to a certain extent, but what we have to address first of all is the desire and hunger to play, and we have to make sure that we match that in the opposition, and we have to show that in terms of our running power and our desire on the pitch.
Do you think, finally from me, for the fans, do you think that you've got enough in that squad now with desire and passion and wanting to win to get us over the line and keep us in this league?
Yeah, certainly I do. I think that the players have to show a lot more than they showed on Tuesday night. But yeah, there's a lot at stake for the club, and there's a lot at stake for the players. As a player, you're tarnished by relegation, and that's certainly something that as a player you never want on your CV. I was relegated twice as a player, once with Newcastle United and once when I was on loan in Reading as well. So it's not a nice scenario. It's not a nice situation to have to deal with as a player. So yeah, I believe we have enough in this group of players, and they have to demonstrate that they have the desire to make sure that they address the situation.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ange. Dave, do you want to fire off a couple, please?
Yeah, just one question, really. Obviously, you've played some tough games recently, Middlesbrough and Wigan. You're playing against sides who are absolutely desperate to survive in the Championship. But it doesn't get any easier. Barnsley, of course, and then Leeds, and then Forest and Brentford, all fighting for promotion. It doesn't get any easier, does it? Should fans sort of take comfort that they are actually, it's not just the fact that the Stoke players haven't played well. The other players, who you're playing against and you're going to be playing against, have had to raise their game as well.
Well, I'm not sure the question really you're asking me, but if when we come back after lockdown, I think, as I said, we have 7 or 8 teams fighting to stay in the division, and I think we had 11 to 12 teams fighting for promotion or to get into the playoffs. So in a 24-team league, that doesn't leave very many teams in the middle ground. So that's pretty much been the situation all season. I don't look at games and think they're any different now. When we were playing teams in February and March, the teams had an awful lot to play for when we were playing. So all we're doing now is obviously there's less games. So I think that, how the Stoke fans feel about that, I couldn't really comment on that. The most important thing is, as players and coaches and as a staff, is that, we address the situation ourselves. We don't look at the opposition in terms of requiring opposition teams to do us any favours. We look at the opposition in terms of what we have to play and how we deal with that challenge. The situation is still in our own hands, and that's where our focus has to be. We can't be looking at other situations, or whether that's Wigan's situation or whether that's whatever happens with the opposition. We have to take care of, ourselves. And if we don't get enough points to stay in the division, we've only got ourselves to blame. And so that's ultimately, what we know as a group of players and coaches. And, our objective is to make sure that we get the required number of points.
I think what I meant was that those players you're playing against seem very desperate for those results. Are Stoke players desperate for those results as well?
Well, we're in the bottom 3, so I'd certainly like to think so. Yeah, the players are under no illusions what relegation would mean for the club, for them personally. As I touched on in the earlier question, relegation as a player is not a positive thing to have in your resume. And we didn't maybe demonstrate that in the game of Tuesday night, but that is one performance where, obviously our standards were dropped, and, we have to look at that in isolation, and we have to move on from that. And that's what we've done. And hopefully we see the right reaction tomorrow. I'm sure we will.